This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 256.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another episode. Today, I am not interviewing anybody. Someone is interviewing me. I was on Joseph Smith's Techniche Tips podcast, and we talked about my journey into sales engineering, and basically, I highly recommend networking. I guess that's the summary of that. But we get into a little bit more details about my story, why I got into engineering to begin with, and why I've done the choices, or why I've chosen the choices that I've chosen. Oh, that's is that good English? I should ask Dan Caffrey if that's good English. Anyways, if you listen, Dan, please comment. Otherwise, let's just jump into my conversation with Joseph.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition of Techniche Tips. I'm your host, Joseph M. Smith, and like always, I have another one for you. And this one is special. Now, the reason why I say it's special because I have a lot of people that have questions about this particular subject, and I am absolutely astounded to have this next guest with us. He is not only a sales engineer himself, but he coaches others to become sales engineer. He has a website dedicated to it. He has a podcast dedicated to it, and he's going to talk about it and so much more today. Please welcome with me, Ramsey, to the stage. Ramsey, it's such a pleasure to have you. I'm so happy to have you here with us.
I'm happy to be here, but I have, next time I was going to ask you to set the bar really low.
Okay.
That way I can exceed it. Now the bar is high. I'm going to have to live up to it. So I hope I live up to this, to the bar that you set.
Oh, I know you will based off the conversation that we just had. So I'm excited for it. But Ramsey, I'm going to go back and I'm going to paint the picture for those that are new to this and haven't seen these conversations that we have. We're gonna do this in a format I like to call Boots to the Brain. So we're going to talk about Ramsey's background, his story, where did he come from, and also the brain, the mindset that someone needs to have, not only to get to where Ramsey is, but to scale from there. So let's start from the very beginning with your story, because I know that your story is going to be a great place to start.
All right. Well, we're going way back. I'm Lebanese, not original Lebanese. I'm still Lebanese Canadian. And in Lebanon, my interests were sports and computers. And my dad kind of pushed me towards computers. And when I decided to come to Canada for university because it was cheaper than the US. And I got in as a civil engineer because turns out civil engineering needs a lower GPA or lower high school grades than communications or computer engineering. So I came in as a civil engineer to study civil engineering. And then I switched after the first year to communications. Graduated in 2009 when everything was falling apart, I guess, in the world. Got a job through a barbecue as a support engineer at a company called Alcatel-Lucent. Became a support engineer, did network design engineering. Then in 2014, I switched into what the title of my official title was systems engineering, but the actual role was sales engineering. And I've been there since. I haven't been with that company since, but I've been in sales in one way, shape, or form since. So that's my quick background. And I'm happy to dig in deeper in whichever way you want. I'll pause here and see if you have any comments or questions.
Oh, yeah, we're going to definitely peel back the onion, as I like to say, because once you said you're from Lebanon, I was so curious to find out more about your story there. Can you talk a little bit about growing up in Lebanon and how it has formed and made you to who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, it was very, we didn't have bullying in school. It was more of a, I went to a Catholic school, nuns, strict, no bullying. And you just put in the work. I hear people complain about their kids having to do homework for a half hour after school today. We used to get home around 3:30 and study nonstop till around 9 o'clock. So we had that, but we also played a lot of basketball. We had a lot of friends. So the upbringing was more family oriented. And so we carry that today. Like I live 5 minutes away from my brother, 5 minutes away from my parents, 10 minutes away from my wife's parents. I tried to put a little distance, but it didn't work. I hope my wife doesn't hear this. Love you. So yeah, it was. I just learned, like, okay. So one thing that I would say that helped me was when I was in Lebanon. Economical situation was not great, and my dad had to sacrifice a lot. He left Lebanon. He worked in Kuwait, in UAE, in Nigeria. He would come and tell us stories about the things that happened to him because he wanted to take care of the family. And since then, I knew, like, life is not supposed to be easy. There will be sacrifices. As long as you have the family in mind first, you will most likely succeed. At least that's how I see it. I never had this conversation on a podcast before, so
that's what I love to do. I love to get deeper into things and talk about stories, because what in people's stories, that's where we can relate. That's where we find the human connection and the human experience. And you talked about family just now. Now, my family are immigrants from as well. They migrated from Guyana, and that's also from via Ghana through the slave trade and other things going on there. And so one of the things about family is that they have family values. Now, you mentioned education. It sounds like your family really valued education. Could you talk about that value there?
Okay, my dad's not gonna like the story, but when we were younger, if we didn't get like 100 out of 100, like 100%, he would threaten us to, like, hey, I'll send you to the streets and you'll sell gum with the kids that are on the streets selling it. So it was tough. Like, my mom was always understanding. My dad always wanted, where are the bonus points? You got only 100 out of 100. Why not 105? Well, Dad, there was no bonus points. Did you ask for bonus points? It's like, that's not how it works. So yeah, there was a lot of emphasis on studying, but there was also a lot of emphasis on sports, team sports. Go play the team sport. You committed. Go do it. Don't say you're tired. Don't say you don't feel like it today. You committed to something, whatever it is, go do it. And go try different things. Like, we did try Taekwondo for 3 weeks. Hated it. Left. So they didn't force us to do everything. But as soon as we say, all right, basketball is it, they're like, that's it. You committed. Do it. So between, like, commit to something, basically. That's what they tried to instill in us. Because my dad committed to leaving the household, living on his own to make a living for us to eat normal food instead of eating the, like, hot dogs every day. So yeah.
Oh, I love that commitment. Commitment is so important. You're absolutely right. And from listening to your story, I could find that once you found something that you latched onto it and you pivoted in ways, but you still stayed committed. So, for example, you mentioned how you went from looking into, you start off with loving computers, having a knack for it, and you went into engineering. And after you kind of said, you know what, I could get into this way, but you stayed with technology. Can you talk about how the college experience was for you, navigating that?
Well, the first thing we did was problem solving, and we talked. You were talking about the mindset. It's like, it's not that I can't do it; it's how can I do it. Right? I can't get to. So in Lebanon, I interrupt myself all the time. In Lebanon, if you get 75% on like as an average grade, that means you're like the top student in class. I was not the top student in class, so I was getting like 65, 68. It was still good in Lebanon. So if you apply to a university in Lebanon, you're one of the best. Come on in. You apply to a university in Canada, you're like a C student, right?
Wow.
So we had to find a way, and we worked with our school, and they took the best marks, which improved my marks, but it was still like 72%. And we found out that, all right, if I apply to communications engineering, I will not be allowed into the university. Civil engineering, on the other hand, for some reason needed lower grades because there was a shortage or something. So I can't get into communications engineering. How can I get into communications engineering? Well, apply for civil engineering. First year engineering is the same, and then switch, get good marks and switch. So when I got here, I really focused on getting A+ on everything except for accounting. I sucked at that. It was an elective, so it didn't really matter. But I got A pluses on pretty much everything.
Mm.
And I was able to then apply to switch from civil to communications engineering. And the first year was interesting because coming from Lebanon, I was used to working hard. You go to class, you have 15 minutes between class, you just work, right? You don't waste time. You can chit chat, but you're working. I noticed, I don't know if that's my friends, they didn't have that mentality. Like, I need a break, or I don't want to work, or they don't put in the hours that I thought they should. Because for me, it seems like their school experience was easier, and they weren't expecting university to be tough. So I was able to excel in university where a lot of my friends were not great. But so you're asking me how I felt about university. First year was good. I excelled, except for accounting, which I didn't really understand. Nobody does. So
So good. So yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because you mentioned it a couple of times. Communications engineering, that was the degree that you did?
yeah, it's like computer. It's networking.
Okay.
Well, there's digital communication, wireless communication, everything that we use today that we take for granted on the computer. That was communications engineering. And
Oh, nice.
that's what I did, and I am one of the rare people who got a job in what I graduated in as a communications engineer at Alcatel-Lucent.
Oh wow, yeah, and I remember you talking about that getting a job at a barbecue. How did that? Tell us about that story. That's very interesting.
So I did my internship at a company called Nortel Networks.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah, and that was in 2007, 2008. And I was promised a job when I get back. I was even their campus ambassador. So I had their T-shirts, their bags, I had all their swag, and I would walk around the university. It's like, yeah, Nortel is great and whatever. And then one day, someone walks up to me and is like, "Hey, Ramsey, what are you going to do now that Nortel went bankrupt?" I'm like, "What do you mean they went bankrupt?" Like, yeah, it's on the news. I guess I have to go read the news. So Nortel went bankrupt in my last year of university, and my guaranteed job was no longer guaranteed.
Wow.
So I was jobless for like 4 months after university. I had applied for master's. I was accepted for master's. So I was getting paid a little bit from master's degree, but I wanted a job. I didn't want to do master's. And I went to a barbecue for my hometown in Lebanon, and I was wearing my Nortel shirt. And a lady from Alcatel-Lucent just started chatting with me. It's like, "Hey, oh, you work at Nortel?" I'm like, "No, I'm looking for a job." It's like, "Oh, we're looking for someone." Like, I'm it. And I went. It was a Sunday afternoon. Sunday night, I had sent her my resume. They had scheduled my interview. So Monday, I got called. They said their interview was on Tuesday. Monday night, I went over to that lady's house, and she coached me on the interview process.
Wow.
So I went the next day, and I aced the interview, and there was a competition between me and someone else who was referred by another person in the company. And in the end, I got the job.
Wow.
And
That was quick.
But that's when I learned that resumes don't get you jobs, because in those 4 months, I had applied for maybe 1,000 jobs. I just go on Cisco's website, apply. I'll get to Lucent, apply. Everywhere I could find a job, I would apply. In Canada, outside of Canada. One barbecue got me a job.
Wow. And that job, that position was communications engineer specifically?
It was customer support engineering, but it was in routing and networking.
Yeah.
But I tell this, in the end, I didn't learn anything in university that actually helped me with my job. It was a piece of paper to show that I can learn. Everything I learned on the job, for the job, was on the job.
Mm.
And the one thing I tell people right now is, resumes don't get you jobs, connections get you jobs. So go to barbecues, wear your shirts, talk to people, right? And I'm an introvert. I don't like talking to people. So it's not easy for me. And I do it because I have to.
Wow. I'm going to pause right here to talk to those that are watching us. Like, you're watching this right now and you're saying to yourself, man, I don't know anybody. Well, here's the thing. You can know anybody. You have this powerful thing in your hand or your phone or in your pocket or in your purse called a smartphone, right? And it connects you to this entire world where you can network with people such as LinkedIn and even some Facebook groups and other groups around that you can network in. And so I want to encourage you right now to break free of the shell that you may be in and go do meetups, find people and connect and network, because you never know who is on the other side of that. And for those, because I am an affiliate with Course Careers, for those of you who are trying to find your way, whether it's through IT, whether it's through tech sales, such as being an SDR, or whether it's digital marketing, Course Careers is here to help you out. So definitely look at the description below and find out which one works for you by taking the free introductory course. It's free. The introductory course is free. There's nothing to lose. And if you want to move forward, I do have a promo code, $50 off, that you can take advantage of. That's how I got into tech, and possibly the way you might get into there as well. But we're going to talk about it because there's some other things that, I'm not sure if you're ready for this, but Ramsey has some amazing information to share with us regarding specifically being a sales engineer. And we're going to probably pivot there now. So before I get there, though, communications engineer, how long have you been doing that, Ramsey, before you actually were pivoted to becoming a sales engineer?
Well, so I'm still in the same industry. So I studied communication it took me like 7 years to graduate. That's a different story. And then from 2009, I got my first job as a support engineer in a communications organization, and I've been in that industry since. So it's been a while. Carry the 5. Yeah, I don't know.
It's been a while. So it's amazing. So basically, if we kind of take it and we look at your story, Ramsey, your networking is what got you to be a sales engineer, or as people would say, right? Or to be in this industry, I should say. So let's go deep into it now. Let's talk about sales engineering, because a lot of people have and we talked about this prior, they're like, how do I become a sales engineer? It's not an entry-level position, folks. And so could you talk about how would somebody try to even navigate to become a sales engineer?
Yes. So I was mentioning to you earlier, like early on, I wrote a blog saying that sales engineering is like the chicken and the egg situation, where they say you have to have 5 years of customer experience or sales engineering experience, but you can't have sales engineering experience until you get a job. So I'm not sure how that works. But generally speaking, when you're trying to break into sales engineering, let's define sales engineering first, if you don't mind. So sales engineering, the way I define it, it's the process of solving business problems through technology, right? Which means you're asking a lot of questions. You're trying to understand situations, trying to understand what the end goals, and then offering solutions based on the tool set that you have. So generally speaking, that means you either have to have technology knowledge, industry knowledge, or customer knowledge. Right? So the way it worked for me is I had pretty much all 3 of them. And that's how I got the job. But you don't have to have all 3. You can have 2 out of 3 would be good. So the way I got it is I worked with a vendor. So I worked at Alcatel-Lucent, and we had a vendor trying to break into that company. And they needed someone who had technical know-how. So I've used their product before. I know it. Industry knowledge. I'm in the communication world. Customer knowledge. I'm in their biggest customer. I am their biggest customer. So I applied to the job and I got it. Yeah. Now, if you're not in that situation, like I've had truckers come to me and say like, hey, I want to become an SE. What should I do? And the first thing I ask them is, what software do you use? So I use that software or this software. I'm like, all right, great. I'll apply to those. Right? You already know the software because you use it, and you know the customer. So you already have 2. Most people think that they don't have that, but in fact, you always have something. Right? You've already used the software somewhere in your life. Like if you're a recruiter, you've used LinkedIn, you've used HubSpot, Salesforce, you've used many of these things. So you already know that product, and also you're a customer. So you know the customer, what they want. And you have to kind of think of it this way. And so you have to have one of those 3 or 2 of those 3. And the big thing is, I mentioned earlier, resumes don't get you jobs. Connections get you jobs. So they come to me, trucker comes to me, and they have like 100 connections on LinkedIn. Like, all right, for the next 3 weeks, you're maximizing your connections per day, right? Just grow your network, right? Grow your network. Don't send LinkedIn connection requests without any messages. I always tell them, like, hey, all right, this is the message you sent. I am Ramsey, and I'm trying to break into sales engineering and trying to learn from experienced folks like yourselves. You seem to be working in this industry. I'd love to learn more from you. Looking forward to connect. Cheers. That's it, right? And once it's a numbers game. Some will say yes, most will say no. Once the ones who said yes, you can reach out to them again. It's like, hey, can I offer you coffee? Can I pick your brain? Can I learn from you? Or simply just start liking their posts on LinkedIn if you don't want to jump straight into the can I learn from you? Like their posts, share their posts, build that network, build that relationship. And that's something you have to do as a sales engineer anyways. So start building that relationship with them so that if there's a job opening, they think of you, you're top of mind, and they can refer you, which holds a lot more value than you just applying online. Or if a third-party recruiter refers you. I'll pause here.
That's good. That's really good. That's really good. So for those that are those that are now tuning in, you can always rewind and I want you to catch that. What's the first thing? First thing is actually looking at what are you using already. Are you using software that you kind of like, man, I've kind of been through this. I know how to use this. So for example, I'm going to take it for people that are musicians like I am. If you use Pro Tools and you know the ins and outs of that, you could try to find a way to be a solutions architect or a sales engineer to be able to show people how to use that. So that might be a company you want to look into, or another company. Let's say that you are somebody that uses another software and you're really good at it. That's a great way. In fact, some companies, they actually try to hire people that they've been consulting with as clients, and they are people that, I use a product all the time, and they're like, well, we want to hire you because you know the product so well. We want you to be a subject matter expert or a solutions architect, or in other words, sales engineer for us. So that plus networking is what's going to get you to where you need to be. That's so good, Ramsey.
Yeah. And keep in mind, not only do you know the product, you know what you like about the product, you know what you dislike about the product, and you know what other people will like and dislike. So when you talk to other people about it, you can highlight the things that you like, not necessarily like highlight the things that you don't like, but you can talk about the value. You can show why it's useful, how it's helped you personally progress in your career, right? So, and that's what sales engineering is. You're trying to show the value. Someone wants to pay you money, and what you're giving back in return has to save them more money, more time, reduce risk, whatever it is. So that's pretty much what you're doing right now.
That's so good. That's so good. It's exactly what it is. And I think some people, they want to ask you questions. I can hear the questions that they're thinking in their mind, like, okay, I'm starting to get an idea of what a sales engineer is, but what does a day in the life of a sales engineer looks like? Can you talk about a day in the life for yourself?
For myself, okay, so it's very different from company to company. There are different types of sales engineers. There are inside sales engineers, let's call them that, or entry level sales engineers. So if you go on LinkedIn, look for junior, associate, or inside sales engineer, your day will be demo after demo after demo after demo, basically, right? Like you're supporting 10, 20 account managers, and they're just putting demos on your calendar, and you're just doing them. And then you have field sales engineers, which is more what I'm doing, where I have certain accounts, and my job is to build relationship with users, with the managers, directors, C-suite, whoever my directive is. There's a lot of meetings, right? So let's say today I had 3 meetings where I show up, we have a discussion, I try to understand their problem in one meeting, and then send them follow-ups, try to capture the information that they requested, provide that information to them. If I don't have all the information, and I put a post on LinkedIn not too long ago saying, sales engineering is not knowing the answer to every question. Sales engineering is nowhere to find the answer to every question. So that means a lot of times I have to send emails to product managers or specialists to get the answer. And a lot of times that means I have to follow up with them 3-4 times to get the answer, because everybody has their own thing. You're not the most important thing for everybody. So send the email, a couple days later, send another email. Anyways, there's a lot of that. There's also part of my day was doing demonstrations. Right, customer wanted to see how solution X solved problem Y, so I had to do that demo and show them like this is what I did, this is how we do it, this is how much money you save, how much time you save, how much risk we reduce, and we're done. And there's also a lot of learning, a lot of just calling up customers like, hey man, how you doing? You can go to lunch every day if you want. If you have the ability to invite a customer out to lunch every day, you could do that. That's fun. So it's very varied from day to day. Sometimes you have 5 meetings, sometimes you have 0 meetings, and you use that time to learn, to study, to catch up, to prepare. So
Yeah, that is the one position that I've heard that you literally have to be studying constantly. Like it's like one of those things that you can't just settle on, oh yeah, I learned this like last week or 2 months ago. God forbid. But you literally have to learn the customer, you literally have to learn new technologies like
yeah,
every week.
yeah.
Man, what
Well,
resource? Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
so a lot of like my role, there's a generalist sales engineer, which means I'm supporting products that could be LTE, could be like core networking, could be wireless, and all these have a million different permutations, a million different technologies, and they continue progressing all the time. So if you're in a role like what I'm in, you're gonna have to like, there's a new feature almost all the time. And I mentioned earlier, sales engineering is not knowing the answer to every question; it's knowing where to get the answer. But it's nice to have as many answers as you possibly can because that will speed up and help close the deal faster, help answer the customer faster, and that way you don't have to worry too much about following up and worrying about other stuff. So the more you know, the better, but you can't know everything.
Yeah, I want to go back to something there that you said. You talked about inside sales engineer.
Yeah.
Are those positions readily available like on LinkedIn or other places, or that's more internal?
Well, if you look for junior or associate, you will find them. Also, junior or associate could mean like sales engineering academy, like companies like VMware, like Smart Sheets, like ServiceNow. They have academies where they hire people from outside the industry and train them to be SEs for their own company. So they train them on the product and the soft skills required to be SEs within that company.
Oh,
Yes.
that is really wow. That's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, and those companies, they're not. Are there a lot of companies that have programs like that, or it's just very
Not as
few?
much as I'd like.
Mm.
But there are. So Dell is one company, ServiceNow, Smartsheets, Cisco, VMware. And these are the ones that I know. And I'm sure there are dozens more that I don't know, but there are millions of companies that don't have it.
Ooh, okay. 'Cause I'm thinking as a person that's trying to be SE now, and they're like, okay, so I'm gonna apply to Dell. I'm gonna apply to all these programs. How hard is it to get into a program like that without networking?
Without networking, it's almost impossible.
Whew.
But with networking, it's possible for anyone. Like I helped a former client, now friend. His name is Anthony Palmozzi, and he worked for 2 years to get an SE job. He was in the military. He has a psychology degree. I'm not sure which one it is. And then he worked as a SDR BDR.
Mm.
And through connections, he got a job at Dell. But I haven't heard of anyone getting a job like in the academy without like you can apply and try your luck, but you can always increase your luck with connections.
Wow. It's not what you know, it's who you know. That
Like,
is, whew,
I've,
keep
I've
going.
yeah, I've gotten jobs through my resume only, or at least I've gotten interviews through my resume only. But the percentage is much lower than through connections.
Yeah.
So it's doable. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just you might be wasting you like if you look at the 80-20 rule, Pareto's rule, where 20% of your effort leads to 80% of the results. That 20% should be connections.
Mm. Mm. Man, that is so good. That is so good. I'm trying to get into the head of somebody right now because I know of a lot of people that have become that have tried to do it through boot camps, right? You're mentioning something that's totally different. There are actually companies that are hiring and training them and having their own academies. Can you talk about the difference? Because they might be confused. Like, I thought the tech boot camp could operate as an academy. Can you talk about the difference of the two? I mean, obviously, some things are obvious, but can you talk
Yeah,
about the difference between the two?
I mean, between like a tech boot camp and an
Com-
academy at a company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. So the academy at the company is teaching you how to be an SE for that specific company, and you're going to learn the products of that company, and you're going to have to pass technical know-how and demo and presentations for those specific products. And if you succeed, you will get a job within that company. Furthermore, you're getting paid to be part of the academy. It's a job. You're not paying out of your own pocket. Right?
Really?
Which is why, like, boot camps can take anyone, whether you're fit to be an SE or not. Academies are going to take, they're going to pay you. That means they're going to take the best of the best, those who they think will be great SEs at some point, right? Also, I guess the other big difference, the boot camps, the third-party boot camps, one misconception I see people, and I think we briefly touched on that before, is that people think that, all right, I'm going to do the boot camp and I'm going to get a job through the boot camp. That's not how it works. You still have to put in a tremendous amount of effort to get the job. It's your job, not their job. And I have a service. It's a coaching service. It's not a boot camp. And I tell my clients ahead of time, before they sign up with me, if you're expecting me to get you a job, it's not going to happen. You have to put in the work. I can provide connections. I can provide guidance. But you have to put in the tremendous amount of effort. You are the CEO of your own life and career, which means you're going to have to put in the work to get a job. And it's not a work for 2 weeks and get a job. No, it's a continuous, tremendous effort to get the job. It's not easy, especially in this market. You're competing against hundreds of applicants. I'm looking at applications online, like on LinkedIn. You see a sales engineer that has 180 applicants. You're competing against 180 applicants, some of whom have experience, some of whom have connections. So you're going to have to put in a tremendous amount of effort. You're going to have to face a lot of no's. And if you want to become a sales engineer, you will face a lot of no's as a sales engineer.
Yeah.
So know that no matter what you choose, whether Bootcamp A, Bootcamp B, Bootcamp C, or my coaching, you have to put in the effort to get the job.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Wow. So I'm gonna add another question to this, because I know a lot of people that have taken tech boot camp to become SDRs in hopes to transition to become an SE, sales engineer, in whatever place they can be. So I've heard that once you get into tech, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Ramsey, but I heard that once you get into tech, if you develop and learn enough product knowledge, if you network within that company, that could possibly be a cheat code to get you to be an SE within that company, because you've already worked as an SDR, so your sales experience is there, and you have developed product knowledge because of the connections and the networking and the mentorships that you developed within that company. Do you think that that's a good path for somebody to take if they're trying to become from an SDR or an AE into becoming a sales engineer?
So I've actually have a YouTube video saying the exact opposite. So
wow.
There are certain gateway jobs to sales engineering. SDR is not one of them. Now, doesn't mean that if you're an SDR, you can't get a job as a sales engineer. You notice what you said here. If you're an SDR and you know the product and you build the network, you can get the job as a sales engineer. But that's for any job, really. If you know the product, if you build a network, you can get a job, right? So just because being an SDR will not give you a leg up on anybody else. Like if someone is an SDR, someone is in customer success. In my opinion, they will take the customer success person first, because they work with customers more. And for SDRs, they're only at the beginning of the sales cycle. They have a tiny view of the whole sales cycle, where SEs come in, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't learn it. And if you're already an SDR, you can get into sales engineering. The point is, if your end goal is to be a sales engineer, SDR is not necessarily a stepping stone there. It's its own career. It's its own rewarding career, right? So I don't know if that's the answer you want to hear, but that's how I see it. Like, if you want to become an SE, fight to become an SE. If you need something in the meantime to hold you, like, to make you money, be an SDR. That's a good way to make money. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, I'm having conversations with people that are asking me these questions. So the fact that you're able to answer in such a way is going to help a lot of people. Like I don't think you know how many people I guess confused is the word about how to get to become a sales engineer. It's like one of the big mysteries for a lot of people. So this particular episode of Techniche Tips, in fact, I want you to write down in the comments if this particular episode right now is speaking a lot to you. I want you to write it down in the comments. Say speak, like just put SPAK, speak right now in the comments, because Ramsey is definitely speaking some amazing things. And here's the thing. It's not just that, like he hinted it to before. He has a YouTube channel. He also has a podcast dedicated to this. He has a whole blog and website dedicated to this. And that information is going to be below. So I want you to, at the end of this video, I want you to go and I want you to follow him. I want you to, everything he has, digest it, because you have the questions. And like Ramsey said, even if he may not know the answer, he knows where to find the answer because he's a sales engineer.
And since you're plugging me, I appreciate that. But I want to add one thing. If you want to chat, I have a link on my website that you can book 15 minutes with me, and we can have this chat in person. So, well, virtually in person. No, you can do that.
Oh man, this is good. This is amazing. Ooh, this honestly, I kind of want to keep going, but I want to kind of say, is there any sort of gems, any sort of like nuggets of golden nuggets that you would say, oh, I could give you one of these golden nuggets for the audience here? Anything you would say that we haven't covered so far about being a sales engineer?
Any nuggets about being a sales engineer? I would say start being a sales engineer today. You don't have to have a job as a sales engineer to start thinking like one. Sales engineering is all about solving problems and seeing the value. It's about active listening, asking the right questions. So if you're sitting with your wife, husband, brother, sister, start asking questions and start listening to the answers. Start understanding what they're going through, what the problems are. You can practice sales engineering like that. And it will help you quite a bit. I struggled a lot with active listening when I first started as a sales engineer, and second, my podcast. I'm interviewing people and I forgot to listen to them. It was hard. So start practicing early. And another gem, and it's self-serving, I admit, but Michael Jordan had a coach. Tiger Woods had a coach. Everybody has a coach, except for people outside of university. For some reason, we think we can go through life and not talk to anybody and figure it out ourselves. You could. Many people have done it before. But the point of having a coach is to get you where you want to get to faster. And that means if you get to where you want to get to faster, you start making the money you want to make faster, a year or two in advance, which will make up for whatever money you paid for the coach, if it's a good coach. Right? Yeah. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money.
Yeah.
So, two gems. I hope they're gems. I don't know, self-identified gems.
No, I think they're great. And I right now I want to just piggyback on what you said. You need a coach. Like, coaching is important. Like I thought we get coaches that we don't even think that are coaching us in life. The media is coaching you right now. There's so many things that you are getting coached by. Let's make an intentional effort to be coached by people that have done the work. Like, he has been in this business for years. He's dedicated portions of his life to helping others. If you want to be SC, don't look no further, right? So with that being said, I know we talked about a lot about different things regarding the mindset that one needs to have to be where you are in scale. If you were to sum it up, what would be that number one characteristic that somebody needs to be in SC mentally?
One characteristic. Well, it's problem solving. It's not I can't, it's how can I, right? If I can't do it today, how can I do it tomorrow? Trying to figure out a way to solve it. And the big thing is, you don't always have to solve it yourself. If I'm trying to figure something out that Joseph already figured out, why should I try to, like, Joseph already did it? It's a phone. The solution is as easy as a phone call.
Yeah.
And sales engineering is the best job, in my opinion, in the world. And also, I found the community to be the greatest community I've ever been a part of. So if you connect with SEs they will respond. They will talk. They want to help each other out. So
Mhm.
whether you use me as a coach or reach out to any SE out there, they will talk to you and they will help. So use the network. It's there. Be resourceful. And that's what sales engineering is about. Solving problems and being resourceful.
Solving problems and being resourceful. Oh man, this was so good. This has answered a lot of questions. But you know how they used to say, how they still say it actually, that the more I know, the more questions I have. And so now that they've watched this video, they have more questions for you. Don't look at me. You can put it in the chat below, sure. But I want you to reach out to Ramsey directly. Follow the link. And of course, you're accepting people to reach out to you on LinkedIn, right? Of course, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So reach out to him on LinkedIn.
Tell me that you heard me through Joseph. So
Nice.
let me know.
Yeah, and that would be great for me to know too. I would love to find out how many people came. This channel is in its infancy stage still. I just started it in January. I can't believe that it's grown so far this fast, but I'm so happy that it is, because we have amazing guests like this giving us timeless treasures that we can take back and learn from. And so with that being said, I want to thank Ramsey again for his time. This has been excellent. I'm like, I'm gonna watch this again for myself and take down notes. You can see, I mean, I was trying to be in the moment, but I was like, where's my paper? Where's my pen? But I'm like, oh, this is recorded. Don't worry, I'll take care of the notes later. But this has been such a good conversation. Again, show your appreciation in the comments, like, comment, and share this video with other people that you know are trying to be SEs and may not know what path to take. This was laid out beautifully. So again, family, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I and Ramsey hope to see you on the other side. Take care.
All right, so that's the end of the show. Thank you, Joseph, for having me on your show. For you listening, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took something from it. Is there something you didn't know, now you know? Are there any takeaways? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear how you can implement whatever I discussed with Joseph. And with that, I'm signing off.